Jonathan Isenor is kind enough to be in studio. We've warned you about it. We warned you Democrats about coming on into studio. Jonathan is joining us. He is running in 21B, known as Steve Drazkowski's district. He's kind enough to talk to us about his campaign today in-house. Hi, Jonathan. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. Let's make sure we get his microphone on there. I think, are we good there? There he is. There we go. Let's first of all start off. You were in town here because 21B. That's down. It's Zimbrota. It's down. It's a very large district in the southeastern part of the state.
Yeah. It is 19 different townships. The largest town is 4,500 people, and it goes from Kenyon all the way to the river. So it is very excitingly huge for the district, or for Southeast anyway.
And you should, because you say Kenyon. What is it? Minnesota City that's down on the river there? What's the town on the very southeastern part of that district? Right on the river.
Well, Goodview is right there, which is just north of Winona.
Yeah.
But then after that,
it gives you an idea. That's a stretch.
Oh, it takes to try and fight to save the environment takes a lot of gas. So yeah.
Too bad. We need sensible transportation down there. You of course. So I was a little bit surprised. You actually You've been doing some work in town for the last few years, right?
Yeah. Well, it's since I started to get better, which I'll explain what that means in a little bit. But it's I've been doing contract reviews, document reviews for different law offices in downtown Minneapolis.
Well, I'm glad you were able to come out here. I'm glad you were able to fight the traffic. It can be a little rough getting out this way from the downtown.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a lot of changes because he who shall not be named is coming into town today. So, because I take the light rail down to Fort Snelling.
The Orange Lord himself, you're saying? Oh, yes. No, Trump is. Yeah, he's just fun. I can't. What the worst part about Trump coming into town is I can't wait for the insanely out of line comments he's going to make, and to see Minnesotans sitting behind him going, "Yay, yay!" I'm like, no, do not clap for that. I think he praised Mussolini. Stop it. All right, so let's find out a little bit about you, Jonathan Isenor. Who exactly is Jonathan?
Nothing too exciting. I am a sixth generation Minnesotan. My ancestors came over from Germany because the Prussians were being mean, so they wanted to escape war, so they came over here to then fight in the Civil War. Yeah.
A lot of time they got off the boats. The Irish had the same thing. They got off the boats and said, guess what, you're in the army now, off you go. That was a pretty common thing.
Yeah, well, and with the Germans, they had so many who were dragooned into the Prussian armies that they knew what they were doing. So my family, they cultivated farms in the Monticello, St. Michael area. Very, very conservative area of the state. So I was born in Monticello. My family moved to Blooming Prairie, which is in southern Minnesota, when I was very young. It's right in between Austin and Owatonna, and I remember the tail ends of the Hormel strikes in the 80s, and basically my school experience was watching that and seeing what happened to Austin and to the surrounding towns as the unions lost a lot of influence in the area. So I went to school in Blooming Prairie. My dad took off when we were 6. He was a vet, and he had some problems, and he did a lot of self-medicating. And living in Blooming Prairie, we didn't have the funding for a VA hospital. Mm-hmm. So through my entire experience with him, there was one year that went very well, and that's when he went up to St. Cloud to the VA hospital there to get some treatment, and he came back and he was doing well. But outside of that, he had a lot of demons to fight, which then left my mom to raise 4 kids on her own, to hold down a job, to get a college degree in all of that. And so she went to a lot of night school. She went to Austin. She went to a school in Owatonna, Winona, Mankato, Rochester. Just pretty much every night she was driving somewhere to get 2 or 3 credits. And we ate a lot of frozen pizza. But with that, since we grew up in Minnesota, we also got to eat a lot of healthy, nutritious food because of different school programs. We got to keep our home, and we got a good education. So I got to go to college, and shortly after that, I got to go to law school. And while in law school, I started law school in 2008, and right when the recession was hitting. And so I got to watch my stepfather, who built his own house. And when I say he built his own house, I mean he was a carpenter or a cabinet maker, 1865, and he would save the scrap cherry wood over just years. He just kept small pieces in his garage as they were being thrown out, and so he really built his own house with the scrap wood that he had, and it was an amazing house for the couple of years that we got to have it. But like so many other homes in that time, he lost that, which fueled me a lot as I was going into law school. So I put all my focus towards doing workers' compensation, employment law, and mediation. I went to Hamlin here in Minnesota, and so that's where a lot of my focus went. After that, my wife and I. Sorry, I should probably mention her.
Oh, no, you definitely should. Yeah, as a married man myself, please go right ahead.
Yeah, also, she's my campaign manager, so, yeah, there's a whole Venn diagram of how amazing she is. But when she graduated law school, she got a job in Coochin County as an assistant county attorney.
Okay.
Which is, that was her focus. She wanted to do that for a number of reasons. And when you interview her, she'll tell you all about that. But so I followed her up there because I'm not going to do a 5-hour commute. And I started my own workers' compensation practice, which was a lot of fun for the year. We were up there, if you don't know, Coochin County.
Way up north, yeah.
Yeah. Our first house that we were renting up there, Canada, was literally the first thing we saw every morning out of our bedroom window. So way up there. But there's also a lot of relaxation that just goes with that lifestyle. My law office, I had a pack and play in there. I kept my son Jack on my desk as I would do research, and I could just play with him, and it was in so many ways a dream life. And then in September of 2014, I was diagnosed with cancer, a very rare, very stupid leg cancer that, they don't really warn you about those. There's nothing I could do to avoid it. And it was very aggressive, and if it would have metastasized, that would have been it. But it didn't, and on top of that, I live in Minnesota, so I got to go to the Mayo Clinic, where my doctor in Duluth said that if I didn't get to do that, there's a fair chance I would have lost my leg. So I went down to the Mayo, stayed with my sister for a while, got treatment. My wife got a job in Owatonna, and which is the seat for Steele County, where Blooming Prairie, my hometown, is. And so we don't live there because, well, every once in a while she comes home, asks me if I know somebody, and I say with a frown, yes, that was a very good friend of mine in high school. Mm-hmm. You prosecuted them, didn't you? Right. So we lose one more Christmas card. But I had all my treatment. I had a surgery, recovered a bit, started to work again, got sick again, had a second surgery, and that put me on my couch for a year. And the second surgery was in February 2016. I could start to walk around about midsummer. And but other than that, I was pretty much incapacitated during the entire 2016 election cycle, which made me a prisoner of the 24-hour news networks. And so I got to watch that in nitty-gritty detail. Ugh. And it doesn't get better in high definition. So...
Wolf Blitzer will terrify you in high def, man. I'm just going to let you know. Whoa, what is that? Oh, it's Blitzer. Oh, okay. There you go. So you did. I mean, I've talked to a lot of Democrats of the day over the last. You're about, I think, the 63rd one we've had.
Wow.
And this election cycle. And a lot of them have said the same thing. It's like after 2016, you know what? That was it. I'm running. That's it. I'm running. I mean, this is a district that has, in the case of 21B, Droskowski's been there for a while. But the reality is there's a lot of districts where there hasn't really been the right challenge put forth there. And they said, you know what? I'm going to do it. Is that kind of what happened with you?
Yeah. I mean, in a nutshell, it's I have I won't call them outliers, but a little additional pieces I'll give where as I was sick, I started to do research, and I started to really look into the political environment of Minnesota. My grandmother had this great saying about when everything's falling apart, when your life is hard, you go up into your room, you clean one corner, you sit on the corner of your bed, and you just stare at that and pretend everything's okay. And so I started to think of that as, well, this is Minnesota. This is my corner, southern Minnesota. I mean, this is where I grew up. I know these people. I know, where I grew up was a blue area for all of my life. And I'm not saying, blue St. Louis County blue, but I'm saying, this was
DFL, farm labor.
This is farmer labor,
yeah.
Exactly. I mean, these are the people who got their heads split open at Hormel and who did all these fights for the ancestors of the Farmers Holiday Association way back in the day and whatnot. And I could go into a lot of detail about that, but it's it's an area I take a lot of pride in, is my southern Minnesota, and they're not loud about it, but they don't back down either. So and on top of all of that. This is an area where I remember the old men in their Norwegian accents and other old men in their Irish accents, and not fake ones, but I mean these
that immigrant generation.
An immigrant generation, exactly. Or having enough immigrants in one town where the next generation still keeps the accent.
Yeah.
So, but so I did. I saw a lot of that, and then I saw how toxic it was becoming and how these exact kind of values were being attacked, and it just made me mad. It made me defensive because I know my area and I know who these people are and I know how they help each other out when it has to happen. And the kind of rhetoric I was hearing after, I left in 2000 to go to college, and this is 2015 I'm coming back in, and it just, it was wrong. I mean, these aren't who my neighbors were, so that's why I jumped in.
Tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a break. When we come on back, we'll talk about what you want to champion for 21B, and we'll also talk about how people can get in touch with you and volunteer and donate, help out your campaign. Jonathan Isenor is joining us, 21B, Democrat of the Day. We'll take a break. I do want to remind you, Todd Coled's sponsoring AM 950 this week. His band, Just Folk, got a new album coming out soon. A new single, hopefully tomorrow, right here on AM 950. We'll talk about that later. It is the Matt McNeil Show right here on AM 950.
Looking better than a body has a right to.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Once again, if you'd like to watch Todd Coled's latest video, Protest to Survive, that's the first single coming off the new album in October here. That I posted up online last night on the Twitter page, Matt McNeil Show, Facebook page, Progressive Citizen X, Matt McNeil Show. You can catch both of them there. Hopefully tomorrow we'll have the new video and the new single to post for Just Folk for tomorrow. And thanks once again, Todd. If you'd like to sponsor AM 950, 952-946-8885, 952-946-8885. Jonathan Isenor is joining us, 21B, Democrat of the Day. So if you get to St. Paul, what are the issues that you feel are the most important ones for 21B right now?
Easily, broadband is by far the most important. I mean, obviously, healthcare, cancer survivor. I'm not going to ignore that one. But there's a lot we need to do to even be able to preserve a lifestyle to prevent us from becoming second-class citizens. And I cannot stress how much I mean that. I
will say this about the broadband issue, and I think as an issue itself, it is vitally important. But if I can just say a political element of this, if the Democrats take back the House and they can somehow manage to get the Senate and they can pass a broadband expansion bill in the state of Minnesota, you talk about districts that used to vote blue all the time. you're going to turn a lot of those districts back to the Democrats in outstate Minnesota because that is an issue that's a bread and butter issue. And if the Democrats can get in there, like you're saying, and make that a primary goal, which they absolutely should, I think that not only do we get broadband expansion of business, education, medical, outstate Minnesota, but then you actually have you were the ones who delivered on the promise.
Right, and that's just it. It's 2018, so this is one where I have to. When I talk to my friends in the cities, they're like, "Oh, so they just people just need better internet." But there are communities where they need internet. Period. We do not have these to offer, and people. There are families that have to drive to the public libraries, sit outside the public libraries after they're closed in order to get some homework done. And they just sit in their car during the winter, and the kids do their homework. So it is, that is one where if the DFL were to deliver on it, it would mean everything. If we could push a message on it, it would certainly help me out. I was in a forum with Jaskowski once where he explained that you choose where you live and internet is just fine, and anyone who says different is lying.
Oh, so he's saying just move away from that and move out of the district.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Which my wife has.
Wow.
It was being streamed, and my wife has a great picture on our website of the exact moment he said that, and it was frozen on our computer at home. So that was awesome. But no, it's roads, being able to deliver on roads, which this is another thing where everybody agrees on it, but it doesn't get done because it's so much more useful as a divisive issue than it is to actually do it. Because if we fixed roads, then what does he have? What else can he dangle in front of you?
It's the argument of this: you starve people and you give them a little morsel, and they act rewarded. Or basically, you can have the feast every day and make people realize this is how it should go. And that's, I think, the way that the Democrats have to look at it. The Republicans have been starving people, like roads, transportation. They divide it between mass transportation and road construction, and the reality is neither gets done effectively. And if you deliver on both, it becomes an issue where it's a win issue, not politically, but for everyone. Everyone's happy. You can get product to market. You can get to church. You can go to the store. You don't have to worry about those things. And I think that is such a vital importance to point out that the Republicans have been starving Minnesotans and acting like, here's your crumbs. Be grateful.
Oh, and it's they take it a step beyond that. They don't divide it between different transportation styles. It's now, do you want your kids to be educated or do you want your muffler to stay on the car? Which they're not related, and it doesn't have to be. And these are both things that we could divvy out and successfully take care of. But as long as we act like we can't, then they have that. And of course, there's the final step of also blame Dayton.
They love doing that. Although let's remind people, thanks, Governor Dayton, you actually saved the economy of the state from going off the ledge and turned Minnesota into basically one of the best states, if not the best state in the union, on pretty much every one of these polls that we have there. What other issues? Obviously, education. Let's briefly mention, because this is one of the things that's near and dear to my heart. There's a failure in education funding in this state, especially in rural communities, where a lot of these communities have the same school buildings from the 20s and 30s. This is something, if we don't get this fixed, and we can fix it, it just is. It takes leadership to fix it, and there's no leadership on the Republican side.
Well, for my money, it's because they tie it to the farmland, and they did this 100 years ago when it made sense. Because when you went to school, you graduated and you stayed in your community and used your education that your community paid for to benefit your community. That makes sense. You get what you paid for. Now it is. My wife and I are fighting tooth and nail to raise our kids in a rural community, and we will continue to do that because that alone is very important to me. I loved my hometown, and I want my kids to have that same experience. So that being said, it's most people our age, our generation, now go to the cities after they get educated. They go to college, then they have to go to the cities in order to have a middle-class lifestyle. And so then the county that pays for the education sends the money right to the cities.
And you can't to a point you can't argue with the farmers because the referendum standard is antiquated, and you just basically keep holding your hand out. You can't offer it. You have to fix this funding issue on the statewide level, and that's I think an important key. Jonathan Isenor, once again, 21B. I want to mention that you can go to your website isenorforhouse.com. ISENOR, the number 4 house.com, correct?
Yes.
All right. I'm presuming you're going to be doing some door knocking because that really has been what we've seen is the door knocking is the deciding factor, really.
And I encourage anybody to come along. The way that we've been doing it is we did this early on in the campaign, and we're returning to it, but we do a service Saturdays where we go out, we help somebody so that even no matter what happens in this campaign, at least we get something taken care of. So we're going to go to someone's house, we're going to do some yard raking, and then after that, we're going to do door knocking. And I have to say that I understand the fear because you look at this district and it looks red, but the truth is that it's a district spread over 4 different counties, 2 different congressional districts, and it is hidden in the cracks of all of Minnesota politics.
And a lot of these houses probably haven't had a DFLer knock on the door in many years.
You will be so rewarded if you come and door knock in my district because it does happen at least twice every time I go out where somebody says, as they're reaching for my literature, they say, "You have my vote. You're the first person to ever knock this door." Boom.
Donations, volunteers. If you can help out Jonathan down in 21B, please do. Isenor, ISENOR, the number 4 house.com. I will link to everything on social media a little bit later on, as well as we'll spotlight the Democrat of the Day interview here with Jonathan. Jonathan, I appreciate you coming into the studio. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. It was a great time.
My pleasure. Jonathan Isenor, Democrat of the Day.